Thank you so much for those kind words. How is everybody doing today? You guys ready to have some fun? Yes? Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm an IT person, so we don't have fun. I'm kidding, okay? It's a privilege and honor to be with all of you. And, His Excellency, thank you for being here. And you're absolutely right. Dedicating 4 hours shows your dedication to this effort, and we greatly appreciate it. And it's an example to other world leaders, in my opinion. Absolutely is. Thank you. I have the privilege to serve as the Vice President and CIO at University of Michigan, and I'm also a professor in computer science. And I stand before all of you in utmost humility. My mother, when I was growing up, raised me with this, her favorite Sanskrit phrase, which goes something like this: Acharya Deva Bhava. Teacher is made in the image of God and should be respected as one would respect God. So I stand before you as I see a teacher in each one of you. And I know His Excellency at one point in time was a teacher himself. So it's a real privilege to be here. Thank you. We're going to have lots of fun. And here's a little bit of information about University of Michigan. This is an amazing institution in the world. We have more top 10 programs, ranked top 10 programs in the world than any other institution. We have a budget of about $9 billion. Annual research expenditure exceed $1.6 billion. And incredible amount of technology expertise. I have a favorite phrase on Michigan campus where each building I go to, I'm always humbled because of the talent in each one of those buildings. Talent not just among teachers, talent among students as well. And I've seen incredible talent at progress here as well in some of the videos that you showed in University of Central Asia campus, and the video of His Excellency interacting with young kids. Those are inspirational moments, and that's how you change the world as we move forward. So moving along, how would you answer this question if I were to ask you this question? And I'm not going to ask you to give me answers today because of the time limitation, but be thinking about how you would answer this question if somebody asked you this question. What are the changes that have impacted our world? And if you think about this, I know you know this, that one of the constant thing has been that change and the pace of change. Work, the type of work we do, driving the change, and the type of change driving the type of work we do, both working in tandem with each other. The pace of change has been incredible, and the question is, are we prepared for that type of pace of change? Enormous change occurring all around us. In my own life, I was not actually prepared to handle change. You wanted us to talk about our failures, so here it is. Before something you don't know about me, I used to be actually 7 feet tall. And I used to play as a center for a very famous National Basketball Association team. I was a basketball player. And then I decided to get into information technology field, and this is what happened. And I was not prepared for that change. So I asked myself, why was I not prepared? Then I learned that the acronym Chief Information Officer, CIO, actually stands for career is over. So my career as a basketball player was over, but fortunately, I learned a lot in the IT field. But the bottom line is this: we have to remember that while change is a 6-letter word, so is leader. So the question is, people who step up and can embrace change and manage the change. Change management becomes a critical piece of any technology implementation. So do you have among yourself leaders who can manage change? Who can manage change, keeping in mind the culture of an organization? So as we think about it, there were times when people were not successful in managing change. Think about the old times, at least in the United States. Typically, a household would have all of these type of technologies, and we would pay a certain amount of money for this. And then something happened, which was the smartphone, or the iPhone in 2007. Can you believe it's only about 12 years old? And when that happened, many people decided to get rid of landlines. So if I am AT&T, or if I'm one of your landline providers, I just lost 1/3 of my revenue. Then something else happened. Oh, you talked about Netflix and Hulu and so on. That's what happened. On-demand entertainment. When that happened, people decided to cut the cord, get rid of cable TV. So if I'm that company, I just lost 2/3 of my revenue. And I was not prepared to handle this change. So what does AT&T do? They start thinking about convergence. They decide, maybe we should buy Time Warner so we can control the content. Too late. Netflix is producing their own content. Amazon is producing their own content. So what do you do about this? Well, maybe we buy DirecTV. Too late. Other technologies are already disrupting you. So how can you be prepared to handle this change? And what can you do so you're not surprised by it? We saw this in book publishing industry as well. You talked about printing presses in your example. And look at this. The supply chain at the bottom, the digital supply chain, is simply the supply chain on the top cannot compete with supply chain on the bottom. It costs Amazon less than few cents, 2 or 3 cents, to download the book to your favorite digital reader. Look at the cost in the top supply chain, from going to the printing, tearing the trees down, making the paper, making the book, and so on. So it's simply not competitive. So as a result, e-text and digital is the way to go, because that also provides you incredible amount of data that we can access. So be thinking about how we do that. So again, going back to that same question I asked, I've asked these questions to thousands of audiences when I've spoken. What are some of the changes that you're thinking about? One of the answers that often people talk about are the mobile technology, the impact of smartphones and mobile technology. What a different world we live in with these mobile devices. Imagine the Uber and the Lyft model of you pushing a button on your smartphone and a car shows up to pick you up. And pretty soon, as we talk about automation, as you were talking about automatic, and maybe you push a button and the car shows up and it has no driver in it. It can be pretty scary to ride a self-driven car. Try it out. I encourage you to do that. So imagine this world where, Facebook, a company, what is Facebook? It is the largest content provider in the world, yet it produces no content. We all supply the content, and yet Facebook is the largest content provider in the world. Think about Airbnb, one of the largest hotel companies really in the world, yet they own no properties. Uber and Lyft, the largest taxi companies in the world, yet they own no cars. All of those models driven out of the smartphone revolution. Imagine, could all these happen without that smartphone in your pocket? Think about that. Think about the power. And think about the amount of data that mobile devices allow you to generate and store. Taking one step forward, any organization, whether it's a company, university, country, you have to ask yourself, do you have a mobile-first strategy? Do you have a mobile-first strategy for your organization? And if you're going to have that strategy, do you have the right workforce to be able to implement that strategy? And that's where the power of the educational institutions comes into play, producing the right skills. And I know His Excellency talked about the right skills as well, and so producing the right skills with the right strategy. So I would encourage everybody to consider, do you have a mobile-first strategy? Then, of course, we need to think about social media today. We talked about Twitter, we talked about Snapchat, Instagram, and on and on. So do you have, for your organization, do you have a relevant and strategic social media strategy? How are you using that social media for the benefit of society, for the benefit of country, for the benefit of organizations? Then moving step forward, I was going to show you this video, but I want to be mindful of time. And so I'm going to move forward. This video actually will show you what the world was without internet, but we'll move forward for now. What is this picture is of? If you look at this picture, this is actually a Tesla car manufacturing plant. This is a Tesla car manufacturing plant, and notice what's missing. People are missing, right? There's like one person. I'm helping you find that person. There's like one person helping manage that entire plant, okay? Think about that. That's the new day. That's the automation in manufacturing. But you're absolutely right. This is not meant to replace humans. This is meant to augment humans. Because human ingenuity can never be replaced. Human ingenuity can never be replaced. Machines will help augment it. Machines will help enhance it. And that's where the power of education comes. Having artificial intelligence as a curriculum is a great thing. Taking one step further again, we talked about robotics and automation as you saw that plant. And when you think of any successful organization, you have to have a robust AI and machine learning strategy. Do you have that in your organization? Do you have that in your country? Do you have that in your company? Do you have that for your classes? Those are the questions you should be asking. The power of AI in financial tech industry is incredible. In fintech industry is incredible, the power of AI. So, and in medicine. For example, one of the challenges that even United States has is many rural areas currently have a challenge because trained medical doctors do not want to move to the rural areas. Why? Well, if they move, they don't have enough patients. And if they don't have enough patients, they're not going to get enough revenue. If they don't get enough revenue, they cannot pay their perhaps tuition debt that they have. So there's no motivation for them to move. So how do you make sure that the rural population gets the healthcare that they need? That's where the power of internet comes in. That's where the power of automation comes in. Leveraging video, leveraging other tools. You're able to bring doctors to a small village, a mountainous region, a small town where perhaps currently it's not available. That's where the power comes. The other power is simply imagining and innovating. And we'll talk about that later on in terms of opportunities in the financial tech industry. Total digital banking, think about that. I don't even remember the last time I went to a bank because I can do everything through my smartphone, from depositing checks to transferring money to paying the bills and whatever you need to. The power of that smartphone again. Imagine that mobile first strategy. Be thinking about that. You talked a couple of times about the Internet of Things, and that's another powerful area, and the amount of data that this generates. I want to give you one simple data point. Around 1900, people were talking about how knowledge is doubling every 100 years. Around 1900. Knowledge, information was doubling every 100 years. Around 1950, the knowledge was doubling about every 25 years. Around 1980, 1990, just as internet was taking shape, the knowledge was doubling every about 12 months. Anybody wants to guess what's happening in 2020, around right now? The knowledge is doubling every 12 hours. Every 12 hours. The amount of information all of us are producing is out there. The question is, how do we leverage that knowledge? How do we derive wisdom from that knowledge? And that's where the power comes of data and internet. So we should be thinking in terms of data-informed decision-making, not data-driven decision-making. I make exceptions between those two, please. Data-informed versus data-driven. Because sometimes data-driven decision-making may say, in an academic institution, maybe you don't need this department. But if you want to be a comprehensive institution, and you talked about the power of liberal arts, if you want to be a comprehensive institution, if you want to have thoughtful leaders making decisions in terms of technology leadership, you need to have well-trained, well-articulated individuals, and that's where the power comes. So it's data-informed, in my view, not data-driven. And bottom line is this, that any organization that thinks about this should be able to leverage automation while respecting culture and context. One needs to be context aware in terms of how we make decisions, because a decision without context sometimes leads to failure, in my view. And of course, I could ask you to play a game. Have you ever played rock, paper, and scissors? If you have played rock, paper, and scissors, so normally I would do that, and this whole audience will have a lot of fun, but we need to be mindful of time again. So if I had you play that game for a minute, this is what would have happened in that 1 minute while you're playing the game. In that 1 minute time frame, this is what would have happened. Powered by network, mostly through your smartphones. Tremendous amount of activity in the world. We need to be also cognizant of the culture, because culture creates enthusiasm, it creates positive change. So we need to be thinking about that. The power of disruption. I saw a lot of young people working with His Excellency, showing him things from games to other things. The young people are not afraid of failure. They're not afraid to fail. So we need to leverage that talent. We need to leverage young people. We need to leverage those students in these institutions, because they don't know what failure is. They don't know what does not work. Sometimes we are biased by, but that's not going to work. Young people know. They're just going to try things. It's terrific to watch them and learn from them. The power of disruption. And of course, We talked a lot about data and what's possible today with data, but I would urge all of us also to be thinking about privacy aspects. We have to be mindful of privacy. His Excellency talked about the transparency of civil services and information, and I applaud him for that. So the privacy aspects are very important. Being transparent about what data is being collected is very important. At University of Michigan, for example, we recently rolled out a data dashboard where every student is able to see what data we collect on those students. They all have visibility to what data we collect on those students. And finally, we need to be cognizant of diversity. One of the things that blew me away of this country, amazing things, is the diversity of talent that's here. Diversity brings strength. Diversity of talent is power, so leverage it. And if you look at all of these companies, these are all financial tech companies, and I'm happy to have conversation with you in terms of what is possible in these financial tech companies and what's doable. One of the ones that I would mention, a brand new startup called Tractable. This is an interesting company, and it is in the insurance space, and what it's doing is amazing. And I know I'm being warned about my time, so I want to be respectful there. So I will move forward, but I'm happy to have conversation about you in what's possible later on. What I wanted to do, however, was end with this video. So take a look at this video and see what you think. Would you play the video, please? And the volume? On a personal level, what I want to do is conclude this by sharing with you. Yesterday was National Poetry Month in many countries. One of my favorite poets, Maya Angelou, and one of her quotes is something like this. They may not remember what you said, they may not remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And that remark is towards all the organizers and this country itself. How you made us feel was very, very special, for which I'm grateful and thank you. Thank you for your time.